Assalamu alaikum and very warm welcome to everybody. Uh, Actually, on the basis of SMUTA, I really like to welcome all on our webinar series. Okay, we are going to have all the series on research on different topics, and this will be, inshallah, a great experience for all of you because we in SMUTA we really believe in academics, the improvement of academics, education quality, and for that we will be serving high. For that, we have our special guest, Professor Dr. Anila Amber. She is a professor of psychology from Karachi University. She's been very kind and very generous person in the whole moment of SMUTA and the whole struggle of SMUTA. She was very kind, and she is not only a good leader, a good teacher, but she's also a good leader as well. So I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Anila Amber on this platform on the series of our talks, the webinar series. And I would be requesting Dr. Anila, okay, she can talk a little bit about SMUTA and SMUTA struggle and how SMUTA is really achieving towards the best education platform for the entire fraternity. Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Ji, walaikum assalam. I hope I'm visible for everyone.
Your voice is visible, but we cannot see you, Doctor. Maybe there's a problem with your camera or something.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Now.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for giving us time because you have a really tight and really busy schedule for that.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I must congratulate everyone who is in the SMUTA for the previous year and for the new coming year. जो लोग होल्ड कर रहे हैं पोजीशंस को और ऑफिस बेयरर हैं एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल में हैं I need to congratulate everyone, and it is a really very good initiative. And from my perspective, from the beginning, you are in a very good direction. Like on one side, you are struggling politically or for the rights of the faculty member, and on the other side, you are developing faculty or enabling them in order to fight or cope up with the certain kind of stressors, like regarding the stresses with reference to the promotions, with reference to their capacity building, etc. So the things are very nice on your end, and I feel कि चीजें जो हैं वो अगर इसी तरह से चलती रहें तो it will be see you or give you a very good kind of reflection.
Inshallah,
for
Doctor.
me, the organizations which are fighting for the rights of teachers or for the rights of their employees are always doing a great job. And I feel that it is a very difficult task because the whole year or the whole tenure you are fighting or you are struggling. Continuously आपके फोन बजते हैं, continuously आप respond करते हैं चीजों को, और उसके साथ साथ every time you need to face a new different kind of issue. The first battle is within the university. The second battle is outside the university, which is with the government, with the provincial government, with the federal government, and with the HEC on the larger end. Recently, हम जो है वो कल जो है वो protest में होंगे इस्लामाबाद में, और we will work for it, and we will protest for certain anti-faculty policies which are from the HEC on time-to-time basis. But apart from this kind of context, I feel कि जी जो institutions हैं, जो faculty के institutions हैं, वो बड़े important होते हैं, और वो faculty के rights के लिए जो है वो बहुत struggle करते हैं. इनको बड़ा unbiased होना चाहिए. जिस वक्त आप elect होकर आते हैं और elect होकर आप जो है वो किसी position पे आते हैं, तो यूजुअली यही होता है कि हम किसी एक के प्रेसिडेंट नहीं होते या किसी एक पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप के प्रेसिडेंट नहीं होते, बल्कि हम तमाम लोगों के प्रेसिडेंट होते हैं जिनके लिए हम ये इलेक्शंस जीत के आए होते हैं, चाहे वो हमारे ओपोनेंट हों, चाहे वो हम. मैंने जो है वो सिंध पपौसा की जो है वो क़यादत 2018 और 19 में की, और उसके बाद 2019 और 20 में जो है وہ میں نے دوبارہ ایک اور الیکشن اپنی یونیورسٹی میں کنٹیسٹ کیا اور اس کو بھی جیتا. میں 23 سال کے بعد بننے والی پہلی خاتون پریزیڈنٹ تھی, اور اس وقت مجھے یہ اندازہ نہیں تھا کہ اس کے کتنے پریشرز ہوں گے, بیکاز میں وائس پریزیڈنٹ پر تو کنٹیسٹ کر چکی تھی, لیکن وائس پریزیڈنٹ کے بعد میں نے کسی اور یعنی پریزیڈنٹ کی پوزیشن کو جو ہے کبھی آپٹ نہیں کیا تھا. لیکن جب 2018-19 میں کیا تو دیٹ واز اے ویری اسٹرگلنگ پیریڈ ان مائی یونیورسٹی, and then in 2019 and 18 it was a quite relaxing period in my university because the vice chancellor has been changed, and the new vice chancellor, which is right now serving, is very cooperative and very humble in their in his direction. The reason why he is humble, why he is polite, the basic reason is that he is from the regular service. He is from the University of Karachi and from the regular faculty. He is not a retired person, he is not a bureaucrat, or he is not someone who is outside the university. So he is having a larger comprehension. That's why the University of Karachi is on the calmer side. But on the whole, in the universities, I observe that the faculty and the administrations are in conflict. Even in the past, in my university is always in the conflict. In your university, you people did a very good job struggling with an autocratic kind of person or very arrogant kind of person, جو بڑا مشکل تھا ان سے ڈیل کرنا. بہتر ہے کہ اب آپ کے پاس ایک نئی قیادت ہے اور نئی چیزیں موجود ہیں. اور سموٹا کی جدوجہد جو ہے وہ بڑی اچھی رہی اور بڑی ہمارے سامنے انسیپشن ہوا, ہمارے سامنے اس کی ڈیولپمنٹ اور گروتھ ہوئی. سو وی آر وٹنس کہ ہم نے اس کو پھلتے پھولتے آگے بھی دیکھنا ہے اور دیکھا بھی ہے, which is quite appreciable. جو آرگنائزیشنس ہیں ان کو ہمیشہ جو ہے وہ فیکلٹی کے رائٹ کے لیے کام کرنا چاہیے. اینڈ آئی فیل کہ جی ان ریالٹی وی آر ناٹ fighting for the 100%. We are usually fighting for the maximum percentage which we can get. It is not always available کہ جی جو 100% آپ لے کر گئے ہیں وہی 100% اچیو کر کے آئیں. تو آرگنائزیشن ہمیشہ فیکلٹی کے لیے جو ہے وہ ایک میکسیمم پرسنٹیج, میکسیمم بینیفٹس لے کر آتی ہیں. اس میں کچھ چیزیں ڈکلائن بھی ہوتی ہیں, لیکن کچھ چیزیں وہی ڈکلائن ہوتی ہیں جن پہ کمپرومائز کیا جاتا ہے, اور جن پہ نہیں کیا جا سکتا اس کے لیے آپ ڈٹے رہتے ہیں اور کام کرتے رہتے ہیں. تو یہ جو لرننگ اینڈ اکیڈمکس کا آپ کا جو کام ہے یہ میں نے دیکھا, اور اس کا ایک کانسیپٹ نوٹ پیپر بھی میں نے پڑھا, تو وہ مجھے بڑا اپیل کیا. اور اس کا ریزن یہ ہے کہ آپ کے یہاں ساری ینگ قیادت, آپ کے یہاں مجھ جیسے 51 ایئرز اولڈ لوگ موجود نہیں ہیں. تو میں جو ہوں وہ 51 برس کی ہو چکی ہوں, اور اس کے بعد جو ہے وہ حوصلے نیچے جاتے ہیں. آپ کے حوصلے ماشاءاللہ جوان ہیں, آپ میں کام کرنے کی بڑی صلاحیتیں ہیں, اور مجھے دیکھ کر یہ بہت خوشی ہے. اس وقت جو ہے نا وہ کراچی میں صرف اور صرف کراچی یونیورسٹی بہت ایکٹیو تھی. داؤد انجینئرنگ یونیورسٹی ایک ڈیولپ ہوئی لیکن وہ ڈورمنٹ ہو گئے. این ای ڈی تھوڑی لٹل بٹ ڈورمنٹ ہے. The next vibrant group is which is in Karachi is SMUTA. So after میں اگر پلیس کہوں کیونکہ ہماری تاریخ تو پرانی ہو گئی, لیکن آپ جو 1-2 سالوں میں مرج ہو کر آئے ہیں وہ بہت اچھا. So I wish for your success, and plus یہ کہ آپ جب بھی کام کریں وہ ٹیچرس کے رائٹ کے لیے کریں, unbiased manner میں کریں, اور اس انسٹیٹیوشن کو ڈیمیج نہ ہونے دیں with the behaviors and attitude or the prejudice and the biases which usually we have in ourselves. But we need to minimize, we need to subside those things so we can get maximum from the things. Thank you very much, and good luck for your all endeavors.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much for your nice words. Actually, جیسے آپ نے کہا کہ you saw our inception and you saw how SMUTA has grown up now. لیکن اس کا ایک ریزن یہ بھی تھا, چلے وی آر دا ینگ پیپل اینڈ وی آر موٹیویٹیڈ ٹورڈ دا فیکلٹی ٹو our institute نا, but on the back end the people like you, like Dr. Anil Amba, because you were such a motivation, اس میں کوئی شک نہیں, you were the source of motivation, also a source of kind of strength ہمارے لیے جو بھی سموٹا کے لیے تھا. You were being very kind throughout our journey, and not only that, okay, most welcome, it's always our pleasure نا. और दूसरी बात ये कि हमने कभी भी जो भी बात सीखी, because we were totally new in SMUTA, we were totally new about in all these things, not only because of politics and not because of only all the issues that we already had, but काफ़ी सारी और भी चीज़ें थी जो हमें आप लोगों से सीखने को मिली, like how to use things, how to materialize things, how to say and how to put our words in front of the authorities. So we are really, really thankful for your cooperation in the past and the current situations, current scenario, and also we'll be taking more your
Thank you.
time, inshallah.
Thank
And
you.
as you mentioned
Inshallah.
about you are getting older,
I'm
but
always with you, regardless of the fact कि मेरा 5th November को tenure खत्म होगा, 5th को मैंने election announce किए, but before 5th or after 5th, I'm always available for you people. Thank you.
inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
doctor. Thank you very much for your time and
Thank you
everything.
very much.
We'll be looking forward
Thank
for
you.
you in the future, inshallah.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. She was Dr. Anila Amber. She is a professor and she's a great academics, and she's a great leader as well in how the development of universities, how the development of the faculties, how we can ensure the rights and respect of the faculty. For this cause, we have arranged this webinar series, and this is our first session. And inshallah, this um, struggle will be move on, and our all the webinars, and we'll try to have our seminars also on campus, but due to the COVID situation we are unable to ask our resource person and speakers to come into SMIU to deliver their lecture, but inshallah we'll be hoping best. Okay, the conditions and the situation will be better in our favor. We'll be doing more on physical sessions, but for now we are on a webinar series. For that, today we have Dr. Aga Ahmad. He is a PhD from UTM, University of Technology, Malaysia, and he has a PhD. He has a PhD in finance and accounting. He's been associated with Ikra University in the past, and now he is associated with uh, Dawood University. So I really welcome to Dr. Ahmad, and I really thank to him. He just gave his time, and he's willing to do a talk on how to do a research, and particularly he will be focusing on the introduction of the thesis, because many of the students, particularly PhD and MS students, when they are starting their thesis, they find a lot of issues. Okay, they don't know how to conduct the first chapter. They don't know how to manage the first chapter, the problem statement, objective, the research question. So he will be looking into that, and more particularly, he will be looking into the research papers, that how to assess different libraries, and also he will be having a software that can help the researchers to identify the papers for their research and also how to write papers. So I would like to welcome Dr. Aga. Dr. Aga, thank you very much for your time, and it's over to you now.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed Iqbal. Umrani Saab, I'll thank SMIU for asking me to present a webinar. Thank you, SMUTA. You're doing a wonderful job. Well, I'd like to put some emphasis on chapter number 1, that is being the core objective of any researcher. You call it scholar, you call it external, you call it reviewer. So all of them needs to understand that chapter number 1, that is the gist of your thesis. That is the gist of your research paper. Let me just show you some of the slides. Then we'll be able to cope up with these things. Is it visible to you all? The slides? Well, this is my profile. My name is Dr. Aga Ahmad Nabi. I'm an associate professor at Dow University. I've completed my PhD in management. UTM Malaysia is the top-notch university. And I'll be focusing on guide to write introduction of thesis and research papers. Well, as we move towards our research, what is research? According to Redman and Mori, research is a careful and systemized effort of obtaining new knowledge. This particular statement means a lot in research. What people normally do, as I go towards 20 years or 10 years back, people prefer or people think that people prefer or think that just a minute, I think there's a problem. Yeah. People prefer or think that this research, if you have completed, I would say, one topic, you won't be able to work on that topic again. That was a chaos. That was the people or researchers think at that time. Let me quote an example. Why is this chapter number 1 important? You know what? Chapter number 1 acts as a funnel. You know what is a funnel? You keep on entering that funnel. When you get out of the funnel, you get at least it do condense. When you reach to that funnel's end, you got at least 2 to 3 things that you need to work on. Let me quote an example here. Let me talk about an example of financial distress. What is financial distress? Ability of a firm to fall into the category of default. Let's say, if you move into that funnel, let's ask a question about with us as well. Like you ask your question, like if a company, if it's falling into the category of default, what firm level variables they should choose so that the company should know before bankruptcy. Let's talk about financial variables first. Well, a lot of people's mind like would be saying profitability, liquidity, growth. Somebody say leverage. Leverage is also important. These are 3 or 4 terms. Out of those 30, you enter in the funnel of 30 ratios. But when you are coming out of that funnel, you are coming with at least 5 to 6 most important ratios to check that company falls into the category of default or not. Why these 5 questions? Why these 5 variables? Why these 5 firm level variables? You think that these variables are important enough. Rather than taking all the 30, these 5 variables are important enough to solve a research problem or to write an introduction. That is why the introduction phase is necessary. A lot of researchers, even reviewers, would prefer to read chapter number 1 of your thesis. Your supervisor would prefer to read chapter number 1. Why? Because it is the gist of your whole thesis. That is why keeping an emphasis on chapter number 1 creates an impact on your whole thesis. Let's go ahead of that. Introduction, you need to explain what is the reader wants to read about. Let us go towards the subtitles now. These will be your more or less the main things that you need to focus on. We start with the introduction, then the background of study, that the statement of problem, which is a must, which is the core thing of your thesis. Why? I'll explain it later. Then the significance, the importance of your study. Why? The purpose. What is the purpose of your thesis? The research questions, like I've told you in the previous slide, that you enter in the funnel with 30 variables, 30 ratios, but when coming out of that funnel, you're coming out with 5 most important things. That is the research questions that you need to elaborate. Research hypothesis, how it's written. Definition of thesis, why definition of thesis is different from that literature review. Limitations, hurdles, delimitations like you face in the thesis. A lot of things are there. So let's start with an introduction thing. how to write an introduction. What generally people write, they write everything in the introduction rather than talking about the topic. Let us quote that example again, financial distress. If you're writing something about financial distress, just talk about the broad topic of that financial distress. Explain what is financial distress, how it's taken in different parts of the world, like in developed, in emerging, in developing. Establish your research territory. Tell what other researchers have talked about the only that particular topic, that is financial distress, rather than going towards variables or showing their significance or showing their directions or linking up with other variables. That is your broad topic. Just concise it and bring it to the territory of financial distress. That's it. You need to explain financial distress in core way so that your introduction part just remains with that vicinity of your topic, financial distress. You do not go beyond that. You do not go ahead of that. Do not include any variables. Do not talk about anything. Just show what financial distress means in different parts of the world. This particular, and even add phrases of different researchers, how they talked about these financial distress, and talk about the gap in that financial distress, what that particular gap is missing. Like in that funnel you entered, come up with the 5 variables, like show that this is the particular gap in financial distress I want to address. As we move towards our background of study, now here you have to write the whole story, but in an organized way. Organized way means, first, you start with the developed thing, developed country, America, Canada, Australia, Germany. You go on financial distress with that particular thing. Tell about financial distress or default in developed perspective. Quote an example there of Enron in developed countries, how it was among the best companies in the world. What happened after that? They are doing financial modeling, and after that their profits begins to shut down. When their profits begins to shut down, it was nothing but falling in the liquidation phase. So they liquidate. They was doing financial modeling, which was not good for their company. They did it and they drastically fall. After that, once that story is over, talk about emerging countries. Quote an example of that emerging countries as well. As you move towards an emerging country, complete it and talk about developing country like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. In these particular things, one thing you have to keep in mind, that you have to put your research questions in that format. Like when you talked about developed countries, this comes to the conclusion of our research questions that we need to understand this. As we move towards the emerging country, complete it. As you move towards the developing country, see if in which territory you are working, like in any part of the country that you are working, whether it's developed, whether it's emerging, or whether it's developing. I'm here in webinar talking about Pakistan, so I'll just talk about the developing country right now. Developing country, talk about how default works here. Why company fall into the category of that default. And if I'm choosing Pakistan, then I have to show significance of Pakistan. Like I've completed the developing country thing, then I have to go Pakistan Stock Exchange, that it's number 7th in the world. It's one of the best stock exchanges. Right now it is going in a tremendous speed, something like that. When you move towards that developing phase, then that is the background of the thing. You have talked about everything, but in an organized way, structured way. Do not compare developed with emerging. Do not compare emerging with developing. The most important thing that you do, compare two relevant things, that is developed with developed, emerging with emerging, and developing with developing. In developing, our sectors are not liberalized. So that is why we move towards the developing thing. Right now I'm talking about Pakistan, so I'll talk about Pakistan in that context. In that background of study, you have to quote your whole story in an organized way, so that the reviewer or your supervisor will know that, okay, The developed country was talking about these things. The emerging will talk about default in these things. Now the developing country talks about default in these different phenomena, these different ways. Now we come to the sector thing. So that is the research question or background of study you need to develop. Now, this is the core thing. The core thing that you are working your 3 years, whether you are doing your bachelor's, whether you are doing your master's, or whether you are doing your PhD for the 3 to 4 years, this is the core thing that you need to work on. If this is clear, your 3 years will pass like honey. If these particular things are not clear, I think you'll be able to stuck in this thing for 3 years. Now, this is the problem that you need to cater to answer in chapter number 4 and 5. And you need to establish those variables in chapter number 2. So normally supervisors will ask you, research problem kya hai? Kya find karna chahte hain? What is your research problem? What is your research problem statement? So you need to understand or put 4 paragraphs, and in these 4 paragraphs, you have to incorporate these 5 things. And I'll tell you how. You need to understand 3 things. In problem statement or statement of problem, you need to answer 2 W's and 1 H. 1, why? Number 2, what? And number 3, how? These 3, 2 W's and 1 H, you need to answer. And these 3 things, that is in these things. What is your topic? What is your state of problem from theoretical and practical point of view? What is the gap? That is the specific problem was not solved by previous researchers. Evidence, at least put 2 paragraphs of the researchers and pertain to that problem that isn't being solved. Demonstrate deficiencies that you are going to solve this particular problem. Audience, is this study precious to other people? Would it be useful? So these 5 things you have to incorporate in 3 things. Why, what, how. Now I'll make you understand what these 3 things means. Why this is the problem. Why do you think that this particular thing is a problem? In my opinion, it's not a problem. Quote 2 paragraphs, gap, find that evidence, the researchers that have worked on your particular thesis or worked on your particular topics, put it. For example, if I talk about financial distress, I'll quote an example of Fitzpatrick in 1932. He was the first guy that said that financial distress, company will fall into the financial distress by having these 5 things. I'm coming up with the 6th thing. I'm coming up with the theoretical thing. I'm coming up with the practical. I'm coming up with the empirical. I'm adding some new empirical things in that. So you have to back each thing by citation. Remember one thing, whenever you are putting in statement, you have to back it by a research scholar, a research author. For example, if you say that Pakistan is a developing country, who said that? Quote it. Agha 2017 or 2020 said that Pakistan is a developing country. Show it through State Bank's website. Show it through different authors. You have to back each statement or each thing with a proper citation. And that citation should relate to last 5 years. Because if you're going towards 19th century, it means that 2000s is past. Now you're in 2020. So a lot of things have already been solved. What you are trying to do, you have to look for particular 5 years papers. I'll show you how to find those papers, the specific papers. That is also an issue. Students or researchers have some problem regarding those papers. I've got a software. I'll just talk about it later. Let me complete these things. Then you'll be able to go towards that thing as well. Okay. So these 5 things. Why this is the problem? What measures different authors took to resolve this problem? Maybe different authors talked about firm level variables. You said firm level variables that pertains to country only, means that particular industry only. I'm also taking macroeconomic variables. Let's say If these firm level variables, profitability, liquidity, growth, leverage, size, 2 or 3 variables come significant. Another researcher came. He said that not only these firm level variables, but also country level variables are more important. You have to get the snapshot of the country. So that particular researcher have added your 5 variables and also added 3 more variables. Say say GDP, say inflation, say interest rate, gross domestic product, price level, and your interest rate. Now, when summing up these 5 or summing up these 8 variables, you get to see that profitability, which was liquidity, which was coming negative, now it's positive, and it's insignificant. And even that macroeconomic variables became significant. In previous research, liquidity was showing significant. It means liquidity has a major portion. But now, after comparing or analyzing these things, we would see that the macro and level variables are also important. They are showing significance. They are showing some contribution to the study as well. So it means you got one study that pertains to both of them, firm level variables and country level variables. So this statement needs to be clarified. Why this is the problem? What measures different authors took to resolve this problem? And now it's your turn. These 2 things will be backed by your citations. Why this is a problem? Quote authors. What measures different authors took to resolve this problem? What variables, what side of things they do to resolve this problem? Number 3, how you're going to resolve this problem. Now this how will elaborate each and everything that I've added this variable, I've added this technique to resolve this problem. The robustness is there. The practical implication is there. The theoretical thing is there. Maybe you're not working on hypothesis, you're working on the established facts, propositions. So these are the things that you need to elaborate in this particular statement. I'm focusing more on the statement of problem because this thing is the major part of your introduction phase of your thesis. As we move towards the significance of study, why this study is important. Prove that the study is significant for the major contribution to the researchers. Major researchers that worked on this particular thesis, just example, financial distress, name them. Altman is there, Fitzpatrick is there, Beaver is there, right? My name is there. Just quoting an example. So your name is there. Just quote different authors who have worked significantly on these things. Ask question to yourself, this study is important or not? Am I contributing something? Yes. Haven't this study been done before? Yes or no? Link it with theories, right? As you move towards the next phase, the purpose of your study. Now the purpose tells what research are you looking for and what do you expect to reveal. For example, now you have worked on firm level variables. Now you've worked on macro level variables. What other contribution you want in that particular financial distress so that it can prosper? Okay, now I'm working on sector level variable. I have to check each sector that do they behave differently. This particular thing you need to reveal, right? As we move towards the research questions, your research question is nothing but whatever you have taken from that funnel. Remember that funnel. We have entered that funnel with 30 ratios and we are coming out with that funnel with 5 variables, right? Among those 5 variables, what are significant? It's just the brief introduction of your variables. I've quoted an example. What are the significant determinants of financial distress across non-financial firms listed in Pakistan? Right? I do not write what is the significant determinant of profitability or growth. No, these are the significant determinants. These are the determinants of financial distress. Profitability is there to check the impact on distress. Growth, leverage. Leverage comprises of 2 things, long-term and short-term leverage. So you need to elaborate these as well. And when you move towards your purpose of the studies, it's nothing just to extended version of your research question. That is, what are the significant determinants? Now, in this purpose of the study, you move towards to investigate the significant determinants of financial distress across non-financial listed firms in Pakistan, right? So your research question pertains to your introduction and your problem statement, right? As we move towards the hypothesis. So right now, most of the researchers, most of the scholars, even the supervisors have said that try to make it non-directional, but most of them say make it directional. Do one thing. For example, if you've got a variable called profitability, make a column, 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. In first column, put a variable name profitability. In the second column, name author who has worked on profitability against financial distress, right? For example, Ava, for example, Amir, for example, Muzaffar, for example, Hira, right? Altaman, Beaver. And the third column should be relationship. Okay, Ava said there is a negative relationship with profitability and financial distress. Amir said that's a positive relationship. At least you got both versions. One who said there's a negative relationship and others who said there's a positive relationship. So you got 2 versions of the game. So whenever you are writing a directional hypothesis, say for example, there is a significant, I have quoted an example, there's a significant relationship between profitability and default. Say for example, it would be there's a significant positive relationship between profitability and default. When you analyze that particular question or thesis hypothesis, the result comes negative. Now what? You have to move towards that table that you made. I have got that negative relationship. Now build a story of that negative relationship as well. Maybe the company is diversifying and whatever profit we got, we inserted in that, we put our money in that so that it can diversify. For that particular diversification, we occur losses in that particular phase, or like our profitability dips down. That is one way. Who said that? Quote an example. The authors are there. And if you put this directionless hypothesis, that would be fine as well. For example, there is a significant relationship between profitability and default. If it comes positive, you got a story to build because you have already made a table of that. If it's negative, you got a story to build. Already you got that in that table, positive and negative. So there's a variable. These are the authors and the positive and negative relationships that you got. I'll show you how to extract research papers as well. Just let me go through these slides first. And you have to only use null hypothesis. Whenever you are putting your data into that software, you call it SPSS, you call it EViews, you call it Stata, it is already a null hypothesis. Now it will generate the alternate hypothesis, right? Now the definition of keywords. There's a slight difference in definitions of keywords and what you write in literature review. Literature review is the whole version of that variable, shows the relationship, shows the significance with the dependent variable, how many authors have used it, which term they have used it. So that was the whole story in that variable part. Whenever you're writing a definition in an introduction thing, you only write that how you measure it. For example, profitability. AGA in 2020 measures it, or we can show that profitability is net income divided by total assets and cite it. Right? AGA in 2020 said that profitability can be measured with this thing. Liquidity can be measured in current assets minus current liabilities. Bracket open and just mention. I say whenever you are quoting a statement, kindly put an reference to that, or just a simple theoretical definition, or whenever a new paragraph and state how these keywords are defined in your research, it would be like empirical definition as well. Like you need to show that empirical definition, net income divided by total assets, so that that is easy for your supervisor or for yourself as well whenever you are making a data or you are compiling a data. That would be easy for you. So that is the definition of the keywords. Now the limitations and delimitations that totally pertains to you. Every researcher has faced some limitations during this research process. Like involved in every research, obviously you are going to collect data If there are questionnaires, you're able to, and you're getting people to fill that out for you. That is the limitation. That is the researchers, like limitation is out of researchers' control. That's why I've written it. While delimitation is chosen by the researcher. For example, a researcher chooses to distribute a questionnaire among women only, and they do not include men. So that limitation and delimitation that researchers have to face. The limitations normally is the hurdle of that thing. But delimitations that you choose, that you have to focus on this particular thing, so you need to focus on these things, right? So this is the introduction. Now let me go through how to find, I would say, a research articles. If you are in Pakistan, then you have to go to the digital library. You have to go to the digital library. This is the digital library. Right? I hope you are like looking at it. It's visible to you all, right? Now this is the digital library, right? And now this is the demo thing. Our introduction part has been done. Now it's for the articles thing we need to go on. See, in this digital library, it is for the Pakistan, and because of the COVID, it is easy for you all people to access it. If you're not, then contact your university people. They will like give you that access to that. It is easy for you. Our main problem occurs to search in articles. First of all, I'm going through this digital library for the Pakistani people, and even another software is there that is for you all. Like I'll be showing that as well, right? You have to go to 2 to 3 things, right? There's an e-data book, and here you can see that ProQuest dissertation and thesis is now ready. This is for everything. Like you can get your dissertation of all these things: business and economics, medical science, science, technology. Just click it; it will directly access to you, directly go through that particular way, right? This is the ProQuest thing. Exactly the same thing. It is the summon thing that will directly take you to the advanced search, right? Now you can write anything. For example, we are working on financial distress. If I enter it, this is the basic search. Have you kindly see that this is the basic search? As I move towards financial distress, you can see that there are different articles, there are different journals that comes not only the term with financial distress, but it can segregate it as well. Why? Because I did not mention it to search it on financial distress. So it was searching financial as well. It was searching only distress. So there are 2 different words it's been searching. How many searches are there? 226,964. Curtail it. You need a full text. How many it has been gone? Now it's come to 260. You need articles from say 2000 to 2009 updated. Now it comes to 151, right? Now move to another thing. Which subject are you talking about? What subject? Okay, I want to check financial distress on management, include it. Political science, whatever you like. Finance, right? Another one, just add another one. Economics, right? Apply it. Now 12,504 searches. Now you say that I do not want financial separate or distress separate, right? There's another terms as well. Yeah, and you can add key terms, right? Of leadership, corporate governance, institution, That is not for you. Or now the major thing occurs. You do not want financial separate and distress separate. What do? Add inverted commas here. It condensed your search to 3,322 results only, right? You want, okay, now you said that financial distress is a big term. Let's limit it to banking and put inverted commas, banking. Search it. See, it drops down to 2,406 results. And these variables in which you only found banking sector. That's it, right? Number one thing. This is like you are getting everything from finance and this thing. Another thing is, like if you move towards this premium thing, digital library, I'll open it, I'll explain one by one. It is the ProQuest. It is one of the best data banks you'll find. When you go toward this premium collection, when you post into this premium collection, business premium collection, it is again the ProQuest database. It will take you direct to that premium collection service in which you only find business related fields. Economics, management, business, finance, accounting, entrepreneurship, market research. Here, whatever you put, say again, it would be the same thing, say financial distress. It will get to you direct to that basic search that we have done. Now, but here, if you only find scholarly articles, click on scholarly articles, right? Get full text. Now just make a segregation or make a point in which you need information. Okay, right? Now, for example, this financial distress, so you need only financial distress, right? It curtails against to 9,000. You do not want from 1934. You want it from 2010, say, update. 6,000 article remains. Publication title you wanted, which journals are there? Bankruptcy Institute Journal, Managerial Finance, Journal of Accounting and Finance, the best journal in our finance side, Economics and Financial Issues and more. What would be that document type? It would be an article. What subject? This is the thing that you need to check in and put emphasis on, right? You have to do one thing. You can cite that as well. Nowadays, people are quite reluctant to cite it. Like, it takes a lot of time. For example, if I'm talking about this thing, I'll open it. You can PDF that, download that. For that download, if it's easily downloaded, or you have to make an account here. It is easy to make. Just sign in or like make an account. It will directly get you to that particular table. Sign in to my research. You have to name it. You have to password. Just sign in or create an account. You have to go to create an account. This particular thing you need to do it just okay, and you will directly get an account. And whatever things you want to save, that will be directly posted to your account. Okay. You need to cite it. For example, this particular article you need to cite it. If you write it manually, it takes time. If you go towards Mendeley, that also is like putting something. If you need to cite it, just click on cite. This is the exact article. Udain Sahab if you want APA style, it's there. If you want MLA style, it's there. BBTEX, Chicago, Harvard, what IEEE, whatever citations you want, you can easily find it. For example, I would say I need it in Harvard style. It would convert it into Harvard style. Just select it, copy, paste it in your research paper, paste it in your thesis. You can email that as well. Just write the email address where you want to send, name, and just share it. There are a lot of things as well. All options means these four, and cloud sharing is there. Google Drive is there. Microsoft OneDrive is there. So these are the things that you needed to fulfill. This is one way. If you that was the basic search, right? If you want towards the advanced search, for example, you want financial distress. You want it not in anywhere, you want it in abstract, right? And you want financial distress with, say, sectors. You want sectors not anywhere, or you want it anywhere, like, right? You can add any rows you want. For example, prediction, bankruptcy, right? Full view, full text. Just search it. Right? So these are the articles. Then again, you have to do these things that I have told you to do. You do not want from 1982, curtail it, update it. Say, I curtailed it and updated it. It will directly reduce to 1011. Then you need scholarly articles. You do not want to complete dissertation. That will again curtail it to 424. So these are the particular things in which you can work on so that you can easily grasp papers. Right? That was the advanced search. I think these two were the basic things that you need to understand. ProQuest trials is there. Then you have to go to business premium collection. If you're a business student, then it would be easy for you, right? This is one thing, right? If you go through that, I've got a software. If you still found it quite difficult, I would rather give you a software on that. This software is called Harzing. Whether you publish it or you perish it, you have nothing to do, just to download that setup, right? It will only take 10 seconds. Just download it. Once you download it, this particular window pops up. Right? This particular window pops up. What you do right now, we do not have access to Scopus or Web of Science. If you want to know, if you know the author's name, then search it, Madnabi, right? Enter it. It will search how many papers I've got, right? Once you click on year, it will directly goes to the year articles, 2020, 2019. Okay, that is my name, only for authors, right? You can easily get this particular article as well. Just click it and it will directly take you to that article. It is in the PDF version. You can download it or buy it, right? Number one. For example, if you say that, okay, I do not remember the author's name, click on Google Scholar again. Okay, you do not remember the author's name. Now what? Okay, I'm working on financial distress, say again, or you can give me any word. I can write a simple word, say financial, because we have worked on this particular word from the start. Overall progress of articles are coming. It's coming from 1976 till 2019. See, the articles are coming. I'll give it at least 1 or 2 more minutes so that maximum articles has been downloaded, so that it will be easy for me to just tell you what to do. Right? For example, I'll say cancel. These are the articles that they have downloaded. Okay, you want latest year. Just click on the year. You'll get the latest article that worked on financial distress. Just click it. It will take you directly to that particular paper. You can open it, or you can share it. See, some are books, some are articles, so you need to cater. You have to search from the best journals, publishers, elsewhere, right? Wiley, Sage, Springer. So these are the articles that can easily be found. H says the H index of that particular article. This is the software that is housing whether you publish or you perish. Article says it. Housings publish or perish. Nothing, just Google, put any name. Say. Just name it, the author's name, it will directly come. Right? So this is the particular author, software that you need to focus on. Another was ProQuest, in which you got a lot of books, a lot of journals. It's like, I think there must be 2 million plus articles. A lot of articles are there. I'm normally focusing on these libraries, HEC libraries, so that it can easily be available. Due to COVID in Pakistan, it is like readily available for students and for the universities. If you do not have access to that, kindly contact your students, kindly contact your university, your college, so that you can get the access and get the benefit out of it. This session is now, for me, it's completed. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much, Dr. Amir.
Thank you very much. It was really a great and fruitful session for most of our students, huh? Because majority of the people who joined us are the MS and PhD students who are pursuing the MS and PhD. Exactly, it was a really wonderful session. And also, when you were delivering, we were having a lot of questions from the participants, no? So I hope it will be a pleasure for all of us to know much more from your side. Yeah. So let me ask you now a few questions that people really wanted to know. Actually, first of all, people, as you mentioned about when we need to develop our hypothesis now, the directional or non-directional, you just mentioned about the mapping, that how we can have the lines and segregate the thing. So one of the students, they asked that, okay, how mapping will be more fruitful for students to identify their research problems, and how they can extract the data from the literature mapping table that we used to make, and how it can serve a purpose to develop their own first chapter.
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, that is done by reading, right? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, Dr.
Oh, yeah. Okay, for that you need to go towards at least 10 to 15 research papers. You need to get at least last 5 years, at least 10 to 15 research papers from the credible journal. You need to check the relationship from the analysis table there. From that analysis table, it will be easy for you to just quote there. After that, you
I think, Dr. Aga, we might lose a connection with yourself now. So let's see. Because sorry for this technical disruption. We have some technical issue. Dr. Aga's connection is maybe has a problem. So yes, so we are having this session on how to write introduction, and particular research paper. Dr. Aga has briefly and in much detail He discussed about many things like how to do your first chapter, introduction, hypothesis, and all those things. Particularly, he also focused on the literature review part, because most of the time we students had some problem with the literature review, that how to get the articles, because unfortunately there are so many universities that we don't have the subscription of highly paid journals or the high quality journals like many other databases. So if we can arrange all those things, it's really fine. The software that Dr. Aga just discussed about, the housing thing, it's a really wonderful software that how we can access to a lot of databases, and we can scrutinize from different databases. We can categorize the based on the publisher, based on the H-index, and that's how we can identify the quality of that particular paper. Yeah. So let me check if Dr. Aga is still active. Okay. Yeah. So meanwhile, we are having all the questions now, and thank you for your support, and thank you for being here. And we really appreciate, because there are a lot of more questions. There are much more insights that Dr. Aga has to reveal, and inshallah, it will be really beneficial for our student, and not only for the students of SMIU, but across the country, whoever is listening to us, because these days, most of us eventually, when the development of higher education commission, and also much more need in the academia about the research, because we already know about what is the really essence and what is the exact need of research these days. So that's why we are much more critical about research papers and how to publish in research articles. There are a few more questions that we really wanted to ask from Dr. Aga about. Most of the students, they really face problem to access the journals now. So I think Dr. Aga is back again. So welcome, Dr. Aga.
Thank you.
Okay, you may continue.
I'm sorry, because of the technical glitches, I was like being signed out. For that, you need to at least read papers, at least for 5-year papers, you need to read it thoroughly. At least 10 papers from the well-reputed authors. You need to know the authors that you're working on. For example, if you're working on financial distress, you need to know that which authors are best in financial distress. Altman is there, Weaver is there. You need to work on these 10 papers. Take out the major parts from those papers. Like if there's a variable called profitability, take out that profitability, put it in the particular box. So the one important thing in whatever thesis you are working on, whatever topic you are working on, take the best man who is working on that topic from that. Right after that, you will be going on in a straight path. You have that direction. If you want right now to just get those variables and get those relationships, it's quite difficult. So for that, you need to read properly to get one or two things straight. For reading papers, I'll probably ask you to read abstract first. That was the gist of your thesis or your research paper. Whenever you read an abstract, you get to know each and every information, that which variables is significant or not. After that, go towards the methodology and results part, and then conclusion part. After that, you go on to the literature part. I think from that particular period, after reading, you'll be able to grasp that knowledge and put it in a proper format. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aga, because we have many more questions now. Acha, what is the basic problem with many students, because they don't find a real length about the introduction chapter. Many of the students, they confused about how long the introduction chapter would be. So one of our participants here, he want to know about, okay, what is the adequate size of introduction chapter, how long it should be.
Well, research is beyond boundaries, buddy. So if you have to work on chapter number 1, that should be very clear. It should be around 20 pages. It should be around 25 pages. I would prefer it to be till 30 pages, like 1 to 30 pages. From 1 to 30 pages, you get a clear idea, or your supervisor needs a clear idea what that another 100 plus pages was or will be. These 30 pages will be the basic guidelines of the next 100 to 120 pages. I think you have to like bind it till 1 to 30 pages. That would be like feasible enough.
Great. So even there's much more confusion about, okay, we have to see, okay, how clearly and how adequately you can justify that what you're going to study, what your variables are, what your problem is. Based on that, you, as you mentioned, okay, you can identify the length of the introduction chapter. But how about research questions? Because still, I have two questions in that. because sometimes research questions, the research objectives, it sounds like who comes first, egg or chicken kind of theory. So many supervisors, many researchers, they find it like, okay, question must be earlier than objectives, and some of them, there's a theory like, okay, objective must be earlier than the question, the first question. And second question is that how can we, because normally as in your outline as well, we have to have the questions in introduction chapter, but in many cases we saw the questions in the methodology chapter as well. So what, according to you, what is the perfect placement of research question? Either it's chapter number 1 or methodology part, or and the questions must be first or the objective must be first in the introduction chapter.
Yeah, that has been the dilemma right now. Even a lot of people from foreign universities has been asking these questions from me. Like, see, in the first chapter, I've told you that that is the gist of your thesis, right? So research questions should be in the first chapter. I'm talking about developed, emerging, on the most like reputed institutes, reputed university in QS ranking. They say that the research questions should be in chapter number 1. What you are going to do, that will be like in the methodology part with that research questions, but your chapter number 1 should be in chapter number 2.
Okay, again, we have some problems. So let's see how it works out. Because in many countries, again, as Dr. Aga was mentioning about, it depends upon different people and different perspective of researchers. Okay, how you need to place your research question, research objective. In many theories, in many developing countries, sorry, developed countries, the research questions comes first, because this is how you base your argument. If you have a research question, and based on those questions, you have say to your objective. But in other countries, it's the vice versa. Objective comes first, and the questions are followed by the objectives. So even we were discussing about, Dr. Aga, off the line, okay, how we can identify the research papers and what are the quality of the research papers. Because even sometimes if we use the Google Scholar, because that's a problem with many academicians these days within our country, and particularly the students, they don't know what are the perfect places to search for the research articles. The Google Scholar is one of the most being used platform for many scholars these days, particularly students. But sometimes in Google Scholar, we cannot find the quality journals, and that had some problems. Because if you don't follow the quality journals, so your argument is questionable. There's a doubt in that. So that's why we really need to focus on what are the perfect sources, what are the criteria that how we can assess okay, either this journal is a category journal or what, how we can differentiate between the good quality journals and the average one, and which one is much more better. Because the introduction chapter is the basic and the fundament of your research. Based on that, a reader must be a kind of story now. If your chapter number 1 is fine and the reader has, you indulge the reader, if you build the interest based on your argument, based on your review, so it will be really great to read about. So we'll be looking into that, how introduction will be followed by different articles, and what type of articles are really important, and how we can assess and how we can gauge. Is there any measurement tool? Okay, we can see okay, these journals and these publishers are the good quality one, and if you cite these articles, your argument will be much more stronger, and it will have a different impact than the articles in the average journals. So who will decide the average and the good and the bad journals?
Yeah, sorry for the glitch again. See, you need to go for the best databases. There are 5 best databases. Even there are 7 to 8 best databases, but you need to go towards those best databases. Springer is there, Elsewhere is there, Sage is there, Wiley is there. Okay, Cambridge is there, MIT is there. So you need to go through these best databases to build your argument. Chapter number 1 requires the best journals from all around the globe. Whenever you are quoting an statement or something you are trying to, or even a figure, if that figure is not from those credible articles, for example, Pakistan is a developing country, as I quoted in my statement. Who said that? If that particular statement comes from Springer, Sage, Wiley, elsewhere, that makes sense, because these are the credible journals that has been running in this research whole game, research of game, for the past 50 to 60 years. I would say these things are credible enough. So whenever, and that research question and research objectives arguments were there. See, first of all, it has to be with your supervisor, what your supervisor wants. That is the credible thing, you know it. Second thing, in most developed and emerging countries, or even in developing countries, they want the argument of research questions. How are you able to reach to that research question with that introduction and with that background of study format? As I told you, whenever you are putting a research question, objectives comes after that question. See, you're putting an objective and you're putting that research question, so that creates a fuss. So you are putting a question and then you are creating an objective towards that. That is a clear and straight path towards leading a particular direction to success, rather than you're putting an argument of, I would say, objectives first, right? And with that, you said introduction or something like introduction is your co-part regarding what to study. Your supervisor is not only supervising you, your supervising is supervising a lot of 15 to 20 guys as well. So he needs a clear indication of that chapter number 1. If he has that clear indication, he will further guide you towards chapter 2 or chapter number 3. That has been round the corner right now. People are focusing on chapter number 1 right now, then they are building an argument on chapter number 2, then their methodological part came, then they do the analysis, and from that, but whenever they are writing the chapter number 5, the conclusion part, they are again moving it towards chapter number 4 and chapter number 1st. Why chapter number 4? Because whatever you have done in chapter number 4, that has to be because of your research questions that you've put in chapter number 1. So that particular thing is the argument of chapter number 4, and that places in chapter number 5. So that is the core thing. That is why I'll normally focus on chapter number 1 part of the thesis.
Okay. Doctor, as we know that, okay, you are a quants person, right? We have few more questions related to chapter number 1, and then we further move toward the literature review and publication side, that how we can get the article, because we have a few questions about publication and the different indexing journals. Huh? Okay. So you are a quants person. So one of our participants, he wanted to know about the difference between introduction of qualitative and the quantitative research, because there are some slight differences in terms of research questions and the hypothesis. But do you think there are some other differences in the first chapter if you're doing the qualitative research as compared to the quantitative?
See, in quantitative or qualitative part, these are two separate things. In quantitative parts, you need to talk about numbers. In qualitative parts, you need to talk about structured questionnaires, or you have to make an argument with the proposed theories. So that is the basic thing that you need to follow on. Introduction takes much time while writing a qualitative thesis, while writing a quantitative thesis. So these two are different games. While in quantitative, you talk about numbers only. In qualitative, you need to focus on theories and make an argument to that theories and put it in a structured questionnaire. So I think both have different diversities. Both are from different platforms. So this cannot be, like, I would say, an easy thing to judge each and everything. So these two are like a different ball game.
Great, because when we are doing this qualitative and the quantitative thing, we have a problem with the sometimes students get confused between the framework, the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework, because sometimes we use them interchangeably, but in actual it's not. These two things are totally different, the conceptual and the theoretical framework. So would you like to help our student to understand the basic difference at this level, at this point of level, they can easily differentiate how different they are, the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework?
See, theoretical frameworks, you need to elaborate theory, or you need to justify theory that is linking with your variables. While in conceptual framework, people in finance background and in marketing or qualitative background needs to understand one thing, that in quantitative background, there is no such thing as mediator or moderator. There are control variables. You need to control them. In qualitative, that you need to focus on mediator, that is a helping variable to get into that dependent variable. So these are a bit small terminologies that as researcher, an initial researcher needs to focus on. There is no such thing as mediator and control variable. There is no such thing as mediator in this quantitative data. While in qualitative data, you need to focus on mediator and moderators as well. So these are the prime and I would say small things that you need to focus right now if you are working on a particular research paper or thesis.
What I believe, in my opinion, in my experience now, many of the students, when they try to write about the first chapter, particularly the introduction part or maybe the problem statement part, they already have a set of mind, okay, what will be the outcome, what will be the results. So somewhere, somehow, when writing their problem statement, now there's a glimpse of their solution. Okay, if we do this kind of research, so what is they are expecting? So would it have any impact on reader or maybe the researcher who is assessing them? Okay, if they have a solution kind of thing, a solution kind of argument within their problem statement, how it would be, how would it impact on their assessment or maybe a technical argument?
Assertive sentences do have an assertive answer. See, if you're working in an online business, I would say, what difficulties or glitches you got? Like, I ordered something and got something different. COD is an issue. So these are the technical glitches that got the certain answer. But why that answer is in your mind, that is quite assertive, that is quite simple. So you need to at least address that with the theoretical concept as well. Okay, maybe this thing pertains to this one, then it leads to this one, rather than directly arguing on something. But you need to elaborate and make a platform by adding a certain variable that initiates the purpose or that concludes the purpose. Direct assertive answer, we could have an assertive answer. For example, I quoted in my question as well, in my the slides as well, profitability. I know if profitability increases, default decreases. But when I ran an analysis, it said that when profitability increases, default increases. What does that mean? It means whatever I was answering, that was perfectly fine. But the result I got, that was opposite to that. So what was the main glitch towards that? Maybe my company goes for diversification. Whatever I had with that profit thing, I put it in that next diversification phase. That is why my profitability decreases and my company is like hindered right now to generate that profit which I was thinking. So these are the things that you need to follow. That has to be addressed with the theoretical concept. You do not need to leave theories. For example, dividend policy, I would say there is a signal in the market that maybe the dividends would decrease or the stock prices would decrease. Not dividends, stock prices would decrease. That is the signal. But what happened? No, stock market remains stable. Stock market works on a proper phase. But what does that do? The theory suggests that it might decrease, but it doesn't. So these are the technical things that you needed to add on or needed to tap with some other variables to get the better results, like getting in straight assertive answers.
That's really obvious now, because sometimes we are so obvious about what the outcome would be, and it has the impact as you mentioned about. Yeah. So I have one more question related to our introduction, and particularly not the introduction. Basically, it's about the research design. Uh, some of the students, they find it difficult, the qualitative part. Yeah, and they don't want to go into qualitative research design. Rather, it's better for them or maybe the convenient for them to quantitative. So in your opinion and in your experience, because you have been through, you have published a lot of papers, you have published a lot of in good journals, you have experience, now you are an assistant professor, so it means you had a lot of experience of supervising and doing the research now. So in your opinion, what really makes a student to decide go for the quantitative, why not qualitative? Is there anything scary part about it, or is it any difficult thing that a student can have an idea about the qualitative? Okay, it's a kind of a different word for them.
No, 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 no. I am not making people or students afraid of doing whatever they want to do. See, do what you're good at. It's better for you to do what you're good at. Do not run away from qualitative or quantitative research. Both are difficult when you're working on your MS or PhD thesis. I think you have to go a lot from articles and these things. In terms of research design, I think both are equally important. You talk about numbers, you talk about questionnaires, in which both phases you need to give time to a certain thing that needs to be elaborated in your thesis. I don't think so that is like getting afraid of something. In my opinion, I am a finance guy, I am a quantitative guy, so I prefer to work on quantitative phases rather than moving towards qualitative phases. But most of the students that came to me with that qualitative design are even well versed and well equipped with that qualitative designs as well. They know what to do. So do what you are good at, because when you are good at something, you need, or you will get a lot of paths, you will get a lot of different articles through which you can get to the direction. At least you get that direction. If you're moving from one phase to another, that will be difficult for you to just work on that. Do not be afraid of anything, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. At the end of the day, it's a research. You learn a lot from that thing, rather than, I think, running away from getting things done. Thank you.
That's really fine. That's really fine. Okay, you don't need to scare. You need to follow your path. Get what you are good at. So, doctor, I want to move further towards, because we have few more questions. We have already taken a lot of your time. We asked you for 1 hour 30 minutes now. So I don't want to take much of your time. We have few questions related to our publication and all those things. Huh? So what do you think? Because in number game in Pakistan particularly, Scopus and ISI has a different domains. If you see globally, people are publishing in ISI, Scopus, even in ERA as well, the Australian Research Association. But now in Pakistan, we only focus on the JCR and ISI, and some of the Scopus journals are now indexed by HEC, if I'm not mistaken. So, what do you think? How to differentiate which one is better, if as a researcher point of view?
Well, you start with the small, I would say. If you are a new researcher, you have to focus on HEC related journals, HEC recognized journals. You got a web page of HRJS. If you easily just type HRJS in Google form, it will directly take you to the HEC web page. Write whatever you are writing, whenever you are writing a paper, at least select one journal from that topic. Focus, read that aim and scope of that journal. Then it would be easily for you to write that research paper. ISI is a different thing, Scopus is a different thing. Even see, Australia got a different, as you mentioned, Australian Business and Dean Council, ABDC. It got A star, A plus, B plus. France got different things. Malaysia got different things. They work on Scopus and impact factor. So in impact factor, that journal takes time. That journal takes at least 1.5 year time. If it's not an open access journal, it takes 1.5 year time. So what will you do in that 1.5 year? So you start from the basic journals of HEC, try to publish in HEC X and Y category journals so that you can get aware of the publication thing. And after that, move towards the big journals, the Scopus, the ESCI are right now very, I've seen a lot of ESCI journals that's expanded emerging source citation index. So move towards HEC journals first, publish it, and then move towards, see, a small step, a small ladder makes you go a long way, rather than putting an impact factor. And one thing for sure, keep in mind, rejection is for sure. Even we have published a lot of papers, we have gone through a lot of rejections. That doesn't mean that we just put it, pack our bags and say we do not need to publish. The rejection is there. So you need to keep focus, you need to keep writing, you need to keep working, you need to understand new softwares, you need to understand new techniques, you need to understand new theories that you have to go through, new ideas, publish with new ideas. It's a wonderful thing. Right now, trending thing is energy is there, financial distress is there, environment is there, right? Gender discrimination is there, women empowerment is there. These are the new things that has been going on. So focus on those things so that you will get to know what people want, right? Thank you.
Great, doctor. Achha, even when you're talking about we need to select a journal and we need to see how we can prepare a journal based on the journal's aims and scope, and then we have to see, okay, we need to start from the scratch. And what further do you think? What will be your advice? Because some of our participants, they really wanted to know about. Okay, please share your advice on publication in research papers, and good, particularly in a good journals. What would be your advice on that? Okay, how to publish in a good journals?
your drafting would be perfect, I would say. And after that, you need to introduce something new into your research paper. For example, if you are building an argument, you have to your argument will be well versed. Your argument will be backed by very good journals. Very good journals means impact factor journals, scopus journals, ESCI journals. After that, the argument would be wonderful, and it should be like easily understood by all. Do not make it a vague thing, so that the reader or the editor will just reject it from the desk. You need to see each and everything quite clear. That would be easy for you to get it published. I say read more, read. That is the important thing. When you read more, you get to know each and everything more. Then you'll be easily that it would be easy for you to write something. I mean, if your introduction part is perfect, I think rest is history. Oh, normally the reviewer will give you certain comments on that, but when your introduction part is perfect, that's like a gem sort of a thing.
Okay, I do agree as you mentioned about, because our drafting must be very good, because sometimes I personally believe a research paper or even a thesis, it must be kind of a story. You really need to attract your reader, how you really flow the ideas to into their minds. If your ideas are very clear, your arguments are very good, and they are following you, because there's nothing like, okay, all of a sudden there's a new argument coming and all of a sudden new thought is coming in because you didn't discuss in the past, I mean in the past paragraphs. So it's really good that you must have a good flow of ideas, and your drafting must be very clear. But how about, let's say, as you talk about the housing software, if I'm naming it right, the housing software, it can give us a literature, the articles and the books maybe, right? But what if we have certain specific articles that we really want to have for our literature review or our paper? How to get that article? Do you think, is there any other free access areas from where we can have, because not every university, not every person, every researcher has the subscription for of the well-known publishers. So how can we have that particular paper that is really necessary for us? Huh?
I think HEC Digital Library is open for all rather than getting the access, because some of the things that right now I've mentioned, that premium, that is a university has some access over that so that it can be given to us. Or else Procast is a number one, I won't say number one, but it's one of the best databases in which you got 2 million theses and like billions of articles there as well. So whenever you're working on a particular topic, just keep one thing in mind. Take the best guy who has worked on that topic, read his articles. That will be it. That will be the core thing that you will be able to work on those things. So I think ProQuest is the wonderful thing in which you can easily get your articles, or I'll give you that software housing as well, so you can just give it to the students. It will be easy for them. If you know, for example, I know your name Amir, I just quote a name Amir on that, a lot of articles came, and I know which article and which topic I needs to follow. So that particular thing I need to download and read it in thoroughly, and I'll get the answer of that.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much for a really informative session on different aspects of introduction of thesis and also the paper. Because the idea that you just shared with all of us are really important and really needed, much needed, I can say. Because most of our students and most of us, we are very confused about how to differentiate between the problem statement, how the structure would look like of our introduction chapter, and particularly about the research paper, that what are the parameters on the basis of that we can identify any particular indexing or any particular journal is worthy to cite. So I would really like to thank you on the basis of SMUTA, on the basis of SMIU, because SMUTA, I really believe the advancement in the education and advancement in the knowledge sharing. So inshallah, thank you all the participants who really participated with us. It was a really wonderful session by Dr. Aga, and particularly by your side, because without your support, without your participation, it wouldn't have been that much successful. So I believe, and I personally thank you, all of you, and I think this session was a success for SMUTA, that we have arranged this session. And inshallah, this is not the last one, but this is just started. This is just the beginning of us. And in the future, we'll be doing much more webinars, much more seminars, workshop. For that, we'll be keep sharing on our Facebook page. Do like and do follow our SMUTA, Sindh Madrasatul Islam University Teachers Association Facebook page for more updates, and you will be get a lot of things a lot of productive things for your thesis, for your literature, everything, every academic solution will be provided. Inshallah, the training is in the workshop. Thank you very much, and inshallah, we'll see you soon in our upcoming next seminar. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.